Aloha class. So I'm looking at problem 5-12A in your textbook. So cost behavior, high-low method, contribution format, income statement. So Morrissey and Brown LLD of Sydney is a merchandising company, the sole distributor of a product that's increasing popularity among Australian customers. The company's income statement for the most 3 recent months. And so this is the information, so I've just kind of recreated it. Should be the same thing that you see in your textbook. Identify each of the company's expenses, including the cost of goods sold, as either variable, fixed, or mixed. Using the high-low method, separate each mixed cost into variable and fixed elements. State the cost formula for each mixed expense. Redo the company's income statement at the 5,000 unit level of activity. So let's just start off. We're trying to identify our expenses that are going to be fixed, mixed, or variable. So cost of goods sold, if it's a true variable, right, we could see this 240,000 divided by the number of units and see if it's a true variable. So when I'm making 4,000 units, my cost of goods sold is $60 per cost of goods sold. I could move this over, right? And so essentially I'm seeing, well, what about if I make 4,500 units? 270,000 divided by the number of units, I could see how much on a per unit basis it would cost me to make these many units. And so for every single unit, it's costing me $60. I continue on, it cost me $300,000 to make 5,000 units, so it must be $60 per unit of cost to make this. So this looks like a true variable to me. Variable. Okay. Advertising, it is the same no matter how many units I'm producing. My units are increasing, and I can just highlight those, right? These are your units of production. This is our activity, and while it's increasing, it's staying constant, so this looks like a fixed cost to me. Over here, it doesn't look so clear-cut. It doesn't look like a fixed cost because it's increasing. Let's see it on a per unit basis. When I make 4,000 units, it's 0.85. Over here, it is, per unit, 8. So already I know that this is not a fix because it's not the same, and it's not variable because I can see it's changing. The next one, we can try this one. 78,000 divided by the number of units to get it on a per unit basis. Cost me 19.5. Over here, it costs me 19. So again, this is not fixed. This is not fixed. This is not variable. This must be mixed. Mixed. This looks fixed to me, and this looks fixed to me because it's the same, even though my activity is increasing and it stays constant. So I have all of them classified. Yeah, so I classified all my expenses. Using the high-low method, separate each mixed expense into variable and fixed elements. State the cost formula for each mixed expense. Remember, the cost formula is that y equals a plus bx. So where do you want to figure out the costs, the variable part of the cost and the fixed part of this cost? So I can see that these are my two mixed costs. So I need to identify which part is fixed and which part is variable here. So, and it says use the high-low method. I have 3 data points of dollar costs, and I have 3 unit amounts. And this would be an activity or units or a unit, but this is kind of activity, I would think. And this is the costs. High-low method says you take your high cost minus your low cost divided by your high activity minus your low activity. So my high cost would have been the dollar amount divided by that, minus the activity, and the high activity, the 5,000 minus the low activity. Oh, did I do that correctly? No, excuse me. High cost, this is the high cost, this is the low cost. This is the high activity, this is the low activity. Forgive me. High dollar amount minus the low dollar amount. High activity minus the low activity amount. And so if I divide those, I'm going to know my B. Right? So my B is going to be $4, right? $4 for every unit that I'm making, so it'll be $4 of variable cost for however many units I'm making, and then I'm going to add a fixed cost to get a total cost. So 4 is my B. Remember, I can plug in the high point. This would be, maybe I'll make it a different color. This is the high point, and this is the low point here. This is our low point, just for shipping, right? So I know the variable component for shipping is just $4 per unit. And so I can solve, let's use the low point this time. Remember, the cost is our Y, our total cost, we're trying to divide it. And then this is our X right here, this is the number of units, right? Y is total cost, mixed cost equals A, fixed cost, we'll solve for A. B is our $4, and X is our units here. So let's do that. So Y equals the 34,000 equals A. I don't know what A is, but I can solve for B. BX. B times it by X. Right? So this is my Y. This is my Y. Oh. I don't know my A, but I figured out my B times by my X. So the 4 times it by the X. The X was the 4,000. So to solve for A, this is Y equals A plus B. I would minus my BX over here because I've already times it. I would minus it and solve for A. So A should be $18,000 fixed cost. $18,000 fixed, right? So my formula altogether would be Y equals 18,000 fixed amount, which is my A, plus $4 of variable and X. So now that I've broken it down, if ever I'm trying to figure out which part is variable and which part is fixed, when I make 4,000 units, it's 18,000 fixed. When I make 5,000, it's 18,000 fixed. 4,500, it's 18,000 fixed, and 5,000, it's 18,000 fixed. And then I'd have to times my $4 times it by the number of units to get the variable component for shipping. So we're going to use that in part 3. So we could continue on. I will leave the salaries and commission expense to you. So just like we did, this is your high cost minus your low cost, and then you would divide it by the high activity minus the low activity, solve for your B, and then plug in a high point or a low point, and then solve for your fixed cost, and then you'd have your formula. So you'd know what part is going to be variable, what part is going to be fixed. And so redo the company's income statement at a 5,000 unit level of activity using the contribution format. The contribution format is going to have my sales revenue minus cost of goods sold because that is variable. And then I'm going to have this variable shipping cost, which is going to be $4 times it by the number of units would give me a variable shipping cost. And then the 18,000 would be pushed down to fixed cost. And maybe I'll show that in the next video.